had the privilege many times in my life to visit the Kotel Maravi, but the most impactful time for me was the summer that I spent in NCSY Kollel. The Kollel, the camp, decided on Tisha B'Av afternoon we will end the fast together at the Kotel. And I remember standing there in the plaza, and as I turned around to the back, I saw Harav Daniel Feldman sitting there. And I walked over to him as I was able to learn with him that summer, and he said, by sitting right here, you could imagine seeing the Beit HaMikdash right there. You could have smelt the Beit HaMikdash from where we were sitting. And yet today we are mourning. But he said, look around. Everyone is singing and crying and is sad that we do not have the Beit HaMikdash. But he said the entire day we know that we have prohibitions. There are halachot, there are things that we're not allowed to do. We can't eat, we can't drink, we can't wash ourselves, we can't wear leather shoes, we can't learn Torah, and we're not even allowed to greet our fellow friend. It's like when we walk into a shiva house, we're not supposed to say hi. Today we're mourning. But he said, what happens after the fast? The second the fast is over, when Ma'ariv ends, we run, and what's the first thing we do? What did we miss the most the entire day? He said the thing we missed the most, we go get a drink. We go get something to eat. We change our shoes. Maybe take a shower, even though it's still officially the 9 days. Do we pick up a sefer and learn Torah? Or even more so, do we go to our friends and family and say, hi, how are you doing? How was your fast? Because the whole day we were deprived. We deprived ourselves from items, from things. But what about friendship? Perhaps this is the reason why we say Kiddush Levana on Motzei Tisha B'Av. We know that after Rosh Chodesh, there is a halacha to say Kiddush Levana, and throughout the year we say Kiddush Levana. The minhag is to say it after Shabbat, a Motzei Shabbat. But during the month of Av, we wait until Tisha B'Av. Why do we wait until Tisha B'Av? Because in the words of Kiddush Levana, it says you're supposed to turn to 3 different people and say Shalom Aleichem, and wait for them to respond. And they say Aleichem Shalom. You're supposed to say hi to someone else. And so the authors of the Siddur said, they said, you know what? We're going to wait for Kiddush Levana until after Tisha B'Av. Because the whole day you couldn't eat, you couldn't drink. You couldn't do lots of things. But the first thing that you have to do is you have to greet your friend. Echa yashva badad. The city that sits alone. We've all been sitting alone. We've been sitting in our house. In Israel, if you're in isolation, it's called bidud. We've been sitting alone. This Tisha B'Av, we feel the isolation. We feel the longing and the yearning for the Beis HaMikdash, for the community, much more, because we're sitting alone. I hope and I pray that this is the last Tisha B'Av that we sit alone. This is the last Tisha B'Av that we have to commemorate, and we turn Tisha B'Av into a moed. And if Mashiach does not come on this Tisha B'Av by all of us sitting alone, I hope that we're able to leave our bidud, to leave the isolation, to be able to return back to our community, back to our shuls, and back to our school, together physically. And we're able to look at our friends, look at our family who we haven't been able to see in a long time, and stick out our hand and say, Shalom Aleichem, how are you doing? And I hope that as Tisha B'Av ends, we all take a pause. And before we run and get a drink, before we run and get something to eat, before we change our shoes, we think about who we could pick up the phone and call. We think about our family or a friend, and we reach out to them through a text message, a WhatsApp, or a phone call, and say, how are you doing? Shalom Aleichem. Wish everyone a tzom kal, a meaningful and easy fast, and looking forward to seeing you soon.